Now, I'm sure a lot of you are well aware that I'm a huge fan of Psychonauts and have wanted a sequel to it for some time. I've been so passionate about this, in fact, that sometimes it's driven me to say things that I probably shouldn't have. Yeah, not one of my finer moments. But with how excited I've been for a sequel to Psychonauts, I've never really said exactly what I'd want in a sequel to Psychonauts. A fan of mine requested a video where I talk about that, and honestly, I think it's a great idea because the original is one of, if not my favorite game of all time, so I have a couple ideas as to what could be done in the sequel. Just a quick disclaimer, this video will contain spoilers for the original Psychonauts, so be warned. To start off, I think I'll talk about what the game can do to improve on the flaws of the original, because while I absolutely love the original Psychonauts, I will admit it's not a perfect game. First off, don't have another horrible difficulty spike level like the Meat Circus. Anyone who's been on my channel for like 5 seconds knows that that's kind of a given. But if I'm being honest, it's not just the Meat Circus. While I don't hate any of the other mines in the original, I will admit, only about half of them really reach super awesome, amazing level territory. The reason for that is twofold. For one, the Brain Tumbler experiment is a level where you go through, then you hit a roadblock and have to leave to do an entirely different level to learn a skill that you need to do to get past that, come back, then do that whole process again. Please do not have another level where you constantly have to leave and come back. And the second reason is that it just took a while to kick the game into high gear because a lot of the levels are still sort of teaching you the basics. Like even outside of the initial tutorial level, you have Sasha and Mia's levels, which are essentially just learning how to use a power. Don't get me wrong, they're not bad, but they're not nearly as deep as the levels go on to be in the game. I can understand why they did this, as it sort of serves to ease you into the game while everything's all bright and happy at Whispering Rock and you have all the campers to talk to. Which is kind of another problem I have with the game though, sort of how the tone drastically shifts halfway through, and a lot of things change. It leaves the first half of the game and the second half of the game feeling drastically different. Don't get me wrong, I get it, because things are getting more suspenseful as the game goes on, but I guess I just kind of wish the two halves blended together better, which is something I hope they fix in the sequel. Now that we're done with the whole fixing the flaws of the original portion, I'm gonna go into the story. Now, I haven't played Rhombus of Ruin because I don't have a PSVR and I don't want to spend a bunch of money on one just to play one game, but that factors into my first request with the story. Please, do not make Rhombus of Ruin integral to understanding the story of Psychonauts 2. I mean, just look at what Kingdom Hearts did. They had the original, then they had Chain of Memories, which was a spin-off that had drastically different gameplay and was on a drastically different console, and then they had Kingdom Hearts 2. And in Kingdom Hearts 2, you're pretty much screwed if you haven't played Chain of Memories because it's integral to understanding the plot. So yeah, as you would imagine, I don't want that to happen with this. However, this isn't too bad because judging from what Tim's been saying about Rhombus of Ruin, we likely don't have anything to worry about. Now, in terms of story, with the exception of things that factor into the mines, I don't have that much to say except for two things. One, I would like to see Raz and Lily's relationship fleshed out because them hooking up was kind of the ending of the original. And secondly, please do not have a main character turn out to be evil. Don't get me wrong, the plot twist about Oleander being evil in the original was frigging awesome. I really thought it was good, but it would feel really, really cheap if they just did it again here. Because hey, the original did it, so let's just do it again. On second thought, I do actually have another idea for this story. It could be about Raz getting acquainted with the other Psychonauts, and maybe they don't respect him at first, but he steadily earns their respect, or maybe they expect too much of him, and he feels pressured to live up to their sky-high expectations of him. Also, I'm thinking maybe after everything he did in the first game, the main characters and the people at the Psychonauts headquarters are having trouble trusting Oleander, and he tries to regain their trust throughout the game. Honestly, I think that's probably a necessary plot point because it would be kind of ridiculous for them to just forgive him instantly because he was kind of the main villain of the first game. Next up is the overworld. We already know a bit about the overworld. It's going to be the Psychonauts headquarters. However, Tim decided that there's not much to explore there, so we're also going to have access to the large expanse of the woods outside of it. which I think was a very good move. There was a lot of charm to Whispering Rock in the original, one of the main things being there's a lot to explore. I'm only hoping for the two other aspects that also made it great, those being a bunch of collectibles to find and a bunch of interesting characters to interact with, because honestly, the campers were probably one of the best parts of the first half of the game. Also, while maybe not all of them, I do think it would be nice to see at least a few of the campers from the original make a return in this game. Maybe see what they're doing now, because I know some of them underwent character development that you can see if you look hard enough. As for powers, I don't have any ideas. Really, I don't. The possibilities are limitless, but I just can't think of anything. Maybe electric powers, but I'm just thinking that because I played Infamous. I really don't know what to do. And now we get to the biggest part of the game, the mines. Okay, first off, and I understand if this isn't feasible given the funds that the game has or whatever, but I would like to see more than 10 mines in this game because that's what the original had, and many people say that the original was a bit short. But with that out of the way, what are some of my specific ideas for mines in this game? Well, for one, I would like to see someone with multiple personality disorder, or dissociative identity disorder as it's officially called now. Now, I know we kind of already got this concept with Fred Bonaparte, but I think it really could be expanded upon. Maybe have 4 or 5 personalities vying for control of the mine, and Raz either gets them all to stop fighting and cooperate, or maybe just try to get one in control because it's the original, but maybe he doesn't know which one's the original. I don't know, I think it would make for a really interesting level. Also, and maybe this concept is a bit too universal to work it in now as it would be far too late, but maybe have a mind that incorporates the ideas of the id, the ego, and the superego in it, since that's a pretty well-known psychological concept. Granted, there's not much science behind it, but in terms of like a story for a video game, it would be pretty good. Also, I'm thinking maybe for like a story thing or something, Raz goes into Lily's mind at some point, or she goes into his, sort of as like a weird date kind of thing. This right here, though, is my idea that I'm most proud of and would most like to see implemented in the game. I think for the final level, Raz should go inside Ford's mind. Think about it. Ford Cruller had been Raz's mentor all throughout the first game, and it had specifically been stated that his mind had been shattered in a psychic battle, and everything's just falling apart and is only being held together by the Titanium. Think about how epic of a final level that would be. Maybe that's where they could put the Hall of Brains, because I mean, he is really experienced with like psychic stuff, and yes, I hope the Hall of Brains is actually implemented and I didn't just spend all that money for nothing. And those are most of the things I'd like to see in Psychonauts 2. I say most because there might be a few things that I'm forgetting. Be sure to let me know in the comments if you have any ideas, and heck, I might make a follow-up to this video if I have enough. And one more thing, if you are interested in this game, I do recommend checking out Double Fine's website, because from time to time they do post updates about where they are in development with this game. That's how I found out about their whole plans for the overworld of the game.